I've had a great time responding to criticism of my recent criticism of the USA, or at least the leaders. In fact, it's been so good I thought I'd make a video about it, so here we go. I did get a lot of criticism, but only picked a few of them to show you. Quite a lot of them were repetitions of these, or they had similar themes, so they didn't make the cut. So for a bit of fun, let's take a look at what some people think. Wherever you are, welcome to another of my takes on the USA. I can only assume that people who call themselves Americans, which, if we're honest, is a bit of an insult to most of the people who live on the continents of North and South America, enjoy being lied to and abused by their government. How many US citizens, for example, knew that the region we call North America is not the three countries of the USA, Canada, and Mexico, but in fact 23 different countries, which includes all of the Caribbean, the Bahamas, and yes, even Cubans are North Americans. I bet most of the geography teachers in the US forgot to tell their students this, but I'm happy to be proven wrong since I've never been in a US school. I asked myself over the last few days if this is really true, that the US public enjoy being lied to and abused. If TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube are anything to go by, then it does seem to be the truth. However, I understand that approximately 12% of the US population, that's over 38 million people, simply can't afford to go onto social media and complain because they're living in poverty. And participation on social media means they need to have access to devices and the internet. According to Forbes, there were 42 million USAsians, not Americans, who didn't have access to broadband in 2023, although I suspect many of them are also in that first category that can't afford it. Some are simply badly geographically located and can't access it because it doesn't exist in central Idaho or wherever they live. One of the regular comments was something like this: "At least you can voice your opinions or disagreements without government reprisals." Even Winnie the Pooh gets a mention in these. People in the US think they have some degree of superiority because they can debase their own language and insult their own leaders. I'm here to tell them that their values are upside down. First of all, it's not the win they think it is. If you're allowed to insult someone, it merely shows a lack of education and an alarming lack of respect. And secondly, it's absolutely no different in China. Chinese people can and do, usually quite respectfully, disagree. They voice opinions all the time, and if you've been on Chinese social media, you'd know that. And finally, when a Chinese person insults someone, it's the insulter that loses face, not the insultee. So remember that if you want to be rude to a Chinese person, you won't offend them. You'll only make them think worse of you. But my response was a little different. It was simple. It's an easy way to tell me that you know nothing about China without telling me that you know nothing about China. One thing I've found often is that USAsians don't trust their government or their media. And it's not just me that says this. Academics, think tanks, citizens themselves in response to surveys say this. Now this is where I usually ask, who told you this? And the answer is, it's in the media. 10 seconds after they've just confirmed they don't trust their media. Duh. Another criticism I got was that Donald Trump is evil, not brainless. And I do agree with that comment. The comment I made was that the two candidates didn't have a brain between them when it came to China. They've been so comprehensively misinformed that what they think they know is completely different to the reality. And that's very much a fact. Many USAsians do know what China is like. There are a lot of them living here, traveling, vlogging, and reporting back to a US audience. But they're subdued by social media. Their opinions are either suppressed or even cancelled by those social media, and either completely ignored by mainstream media or discredited as being staged or paid for. What they know is nothing, those leaders. If they do know something, neither of them has demonstrated it yet. So probably they don't have a brain on China. Now this next comment was obviously from a Biden fan who would choose senility over evil, who felt my allegation of elder abuse was false. Now my reply to that is simple too. If my grandfather or my 93-year-old father announced today that he wanted to run a marathon next week, what do you think my family would do? Would we allow him? If we did, would it be acceptable? Or would social services look into what it was that killed him after the first kilometer? Now, I do realize this is a poor analogy because there are 80-year-olds capable of running a marathon. But if they were, or if they are, they've demonstrated that capacity many times. They've trained for the event and we've supported them through the event. That's great to see when people do that. But Biden is not demonstrating that capability. In fact, it's the opposite. I stand by my assertion, no matter what Biden wants. He's not of the correct mind to choose it. I'm also a little bemused why anyone would think it's a good answer to say, I choose senility. Is this an admission that Biden is senile, which I think he is, or is it simply that someone thinks it's okay to have someone in the White House who is senile? The bottom line is, it's hard to argue the US system isn't rotten to the core if one option you admit is evil and the other option you admit is senile. Sorry about that. One person, and I didn't screenshot this one, said, their teams, that's Biden and Trump, have no brain either. And I think I might beg to differ on that. Those teams are deliberately placing their candidates in front of the voters so they can manipulate the situation behind the scenes. I think in both camps, they've got some pretty smart people who are milking the system, not contributing to it. Project 2025 admits that this is something that is happening. Quote, the elites have betrayed the American people. And that's clear throughout their 922-page book. I like this next one because it makes an assumption that Trump is a success compared to me. Now, if being able to build $1 billion business when you inherit enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life is your measure of success, I'll concede. Trump is more financially successful than me, but I didn't inherit what he got. It's not so successful that he hasn't bankrupted his own companies a total of 6 times. And for the record, I've never been bankrupt. I've never defaulted a debt. I've never been convicted of a crime, and I've never even been investigated for one. Trump is the only president impeached twice. He's the only president with a history of bankruptcy and the only one with convictions recorded against him. So what does that make him? Certainly not a valid role model for future generations. And compared to me, I don't know. And here's my favorite of the day. Any comment which starts with LOL is usually going to be a good one, but this one's a doozer. LOL, which country is better than the USA? Of course, I had to start my own reply with LOL, and I asked Nightstorm to tell me. So far, I haven't received a response, but that might be because of my next few words, which were, the USA, has the highest incarceration rate in the world, the most gun violence in the developed world, the highest number of registered and unregistered drug addicts in the world. It has the lowest life expectancy in the OECD. LOL. If you think that's what constitutes a great country, then I actually feel sorry for you. And seriously, I know a few USAsians will be upset with me about this. I don't think I'm going to lose any sleep, though. I honestly believe the USA was once the greatest country on earth, and I actually sincerely hope that it can be again. But at the moment, it's number 1 in military spending and number 1 in military suicides. It has an increasing crime and drug abuse problem. It has a huge number of murders, much higher than the rest of the developed world. It has increasing poverty and homelessness too. Places where it has decreasing numbers are even more worrying. The economy is declining, educational standards are declining, and so is life expectancy. I don't make these up. Every one of these is a verifiable fact from US government's own statistics. But media, which people trust for their own version of truth on China, is neglecting to tell them this. In my opinion, the US has one hope left if it wants to retain primacy in the world, and that's really very simple. Cooperate with China rather than compete. The benefits globally would be enormous, and it will save the US from collapse into chaos, which I firmly believe is coming. Once a president with the capacity to handle that major change is elected, the world and the USA will all be in a better place. Let's make America great again. Thanks very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and check that subscribe button. Thank you very much for all of you who did. My numbers went shooting back up. 400 or 500 new or old subscribers came back the last time I asked you to do that. Thanks again. See you on the other side.